Hi, I'm Coby. Who am I? I am a freelance website developer and graphic designer. Contact details will be shown again later if you need them. What I aim to do basically is dispel some of the things you probably heard about HTML5. Has everyone here heard the buzzword? Whole bunch, yeah. It's become such a buzzword that people who are, they're just blogging about it and saying, oh, it's not going to be ready for ages and it's still not ready, it's still a working draft and all this stuff. But chances are a lot of the stuff you've heard might have turned you off potentially exploring what is actually kind of available now for it. Is anyone in that position here? Kind of delayed getting into it because you kind of thought it's not really ready yet? Yeah, okay. So what you've probably heard is that it isn't supported by all the browsers. Your existing code might not work, stop working, you might go throw all that out the window, and that upgrading's hard. And those are all not really that true, but they've probably stopped you from switching to it because you've kind of thought that in your back of your head, and that's not really necessary anymore. So you can use it now. It's still a working draft with W3C, but the thing you need to really understand about it is it's not one big thing. It's not one big thing that you need to detect support for and then provide. It's a whole collection of little components, little API features, and little subcomponents that can individually be tested for presence in the client. You can individually test for geolocation, and then if it's available, you can provide functionality for that. So you can progressively just test for the things that you need, and as those features are added to browsers and to the specifications, they will become available in your applications. So it's something that you can start with right now. So you don't have to think of it as this one thing that needs to be done. So the best thing for me as a web developer is that the curse of remembering massively long doc type definitions like this to type out every time I start a new site is gone. Yeah, it's over. That is the new doc type for HTML5. It is rememberable for once, and that's a massive upgrade just in itself. So if you open up a new text document and you type that in the top and you go HTML, head, body, etc., it's HTML5.
What happens with an older browser if you use that at the moment?
Just HTML. It should work. Most of them
type and just put that.
Yeah, if we just put that in, nothing will be on your screen. But if you use that doc type, it's all just still HTML formatted stuff, so it'll do its best. But I'll show you a whole lot of tools later on that'll help actually support a lot of the browser type quirks and stuff. So in terms of the features that HTML5 aims to provide, there's a whole bunch of them, and some of them are kind of in various stages of progress. But some of them are like offline storage for as a native API thing in HTML alone. This is a fantastic thing. There's already a lot of stuff you can already see now. Real-time communication and geolocation type work, integration with native hardware, especially on mobiles for cameras, geolocation, all sort of stuff is all going to be part of just HTML on its own. Yeah, it's going to be part of the HTML, CSS, JS API. There's a whole lot of new semantics and markup stuff, which is just additional. Yeah, they've redone some of the old kind of HTML tags and re-engineered them, but essentially it's all just building on what was already there in XHTML 1.1 and HTML 4.01. So there's that's new. There's a whole lot of graphics and multimedia stuff like audio, video tags, canvas, like SVG type stuff. There's a whole lot of stuff there. There's even 2D and 3D canvas support. So you can have 3D, like OpenGL type canvases in HTML, which is in various stages of success right now, but it will be in there. So essentially it's a new DOM API, document object model, an API for HTML. There's new JavaScript sort of get element by things. There's a whole lot of data attributes and aria attributes and stuff that are part of it as well. And there's a whole bunch more, which I'm not really going to cover in here because it's not really that important. But I just want to show you some of the additional tags that it kind of introduces, which are the ones you'll probably use. Header, nav, article, canvas, section, progress, audio, video, button, informs. There's a whole lot of new, just little handy things that, you know, since the Web 2.0 kind of thing come along, a whole lot of these things have kind of become just standard semantics in a website. So they've put them into the spec. So no longer do you have to go div ID or div class section or div class article. Just use the article tag. Yeah. Or submit class button. It's a button. Write it, mark it up as a button. So these semantic elements are introduced as well. So here's a few tips and tricks to sort out things like older browsers and to also just help with the whole transition to HTML now. The first one is browser-specific HTML tags. This is a cool little trick for basically, instead of having to do fancy stuff to determine what IE you're dealing with, what you do is you just use IE's built-in conditional comments around your HTML declaration with a class. So that way in CSS, you can simply go .IE6, this paragraph list element, change the margin on it, fix it. You can selectively do it just with CSS by using this trick. So there's all sorts of variations on this. You can hack your own, but it's a very simple trick which allows you to cater for a lot of older browsers straight away without any fancy other functionality you've got to push. Modernizer.js, look it up, Google it, use it. It's a fantastic JavaScript tool for whipping older browsers into shape. About just giving them support for some of these new button, canvas, article tags. It's a great library for it, and it's very useful. There's another cool little thing which is on Google Code. This basically is a JavaScript file, a very small one, which basically gives tries to give native support for a lot of these new tags, just by loading them as JavaScript objects in the DOM. So that's another cool thing you can use. Chrome frame, which some of you probably looked at before. Basically, this is a way of, if people are still using IE6, you can nicely kind of say to them, hey, you might want to give this a try and see the full functionality of the site. And this basically just prompts them to load Chrome frame, which can be loaded now without admin privileges. So for people who are in lockdown environments like government workplaces and stuff, you're actually able to use this now without admin privileges on the host. So this is a cool little thing that you can use. What else have we got here? Oh yes, the other thing you can do is basically to set up these new things in CSS. So you put them as a display block or display inline block depending on the element. And you can set that up so that way if you do use an audio or a video, it displays as a block even if if there's varying degrees of support there for it in the browser. Media queries is another cool little thing which you can do if you want to, especially if you're looking at mobile stuff. Simply putting this in your CSS, you'll target different screen resolution capabilities, and you can put specific CSS in there for each of those types of devices. And also you can do all sorts of htaccess hacks on it if you want to also from the server side, not just the client data you're pushing. You can actually prompt for Chrome frame through htaccess and all sorts of other things you can do. So if you're using Apache and htaccess type stuff, there's a lot of other things you can do to help support HTML5. Yes. So probably the best resources that I'd suggest to you if you're looking into this sort of stuff, that is a great online introduction. This one here has is a site on its own, but there's actually a button on the site which plays an interactive slideshow written in HTML5. So it's a slideshow with keyboard shortcuts and stuff in your browser, and it actually allows you to sort of, on some of the slides, you can play with the rounded corner sliders and show it working in the slide using CSS3 and HTML, and it explains a lot of the things I've talked about today in a lot more detail. This tool here is the gem. This is the coolest thing I've found in a long time. Basically, it's a starter template for one big combination of HTML, CSS, and JavaScript, which includes all your resets, it includes Modernizer, it includes all these doc-type declaration and HTML declaration tricks, and it puts it all into one downloadable thing that you can just sort of say, okay, yes, I want jQuery, yes, I want this, that, and the other. Download, unzip, start my project. So it's very valuable if you're rapidly creating things using this sort of stuff. Bootstrap is a HTML and CSS framework which Twitter have just released. They basically extracted it out of the work that they do at Twitter. So the UI is very similar to Twitter's UI. They've obviously tested it fairly heavily, so it's fairly robust. But it's all just HTML5 and CSS3. It comes with a lot of really nice starter stuff. It comes with buttons, form lining up, scripts, sortable table scripts in JavaScript. There's all sorts of really cool stuff that makes it very quick to whack that CSS file into a new project and get started straight away. What I actually like to do is combine it. I take the HTML from this one.
Touch the screen.
It's not a touch screen, your computer's screen.
Oh. Thanks for the tip there. So yeah, I actually combine them. It's struggling.
You can live with that.
Okay, so I actually combine them. I take the HTML from this one, and I got my own little version of it that I keep, and I whack the Bootstrap CSS in it, which gives me a nice mix of all the HTML and JavaScript stuff and the CSS tools that I can use to quickly knock stuff up and then change it later. If it's just a prototype, I can just run with a menu bar that floats and all that sort of stuff just very quickly. If you want to see some interesting examples of what HTML5 is capable of, look at this. This is a competition that's run, I think, every year. Just basically a challenge for people to build something cool, usually a game or some sort of web app, in 10 kilobytes or less, using whatever tools they want, but they recommend that you use HTML5, and most people do. So go to this website, you'll see all the current entries. There's some amazing stuff. Like people will build like asteroid games and all sorts of fantastic stuff with just HTML5 stuff. So that's it. Check that stuff out and email me if you've got any questions, or call me or whatever. Hope you enjoyed that. Hope you got something out of it.